It is. So one of the things Madeline mentioned before, that congestion in the gut can lead to other health issues causing inflammation and pain. So it's one of the things that certainly acupuncturists and Chinese herbal medicine people, are looking at. And from a naturopathic perspective, it's always a bit of a joke that going back 20 years ago, it sort of is one of those things, treat the gut, treat the liver, and you'll sort out half the health problems. But the thing about the research is that it's becoming more and more true. So there, in the gut lining, there is actually a nervous system layer. So therefore, once we activate that nervous system layer, we can end up with pain all around the body. There's 6 layers to the gut. So there's an immune layer, a nerve layer, there's a mucus layer, there's the villi, there's the microbiome, there's the microbiota, and there's the biofilm. Yep. Yes. So there's all these layers, whereas when I was trained 25 years ago, they told us there was 1 layer of the gut, which is sort of interesting. You sort of wonder how they can get it so wrong. So now they're looking, and the deepest layer, of course, is that microbiome. So when I get people coming in, we have to look at, once again, that history of someone. What do they come in for, and what do we need to do to get them into better health? And quite often, if someone's had lots of infections, so how we're only 10% human, 90% of the cells in our body are actually bacteria.
Yep.
So we cannot live in a germ-free body. It does not exist. And you would not be healthy if you did.
But you've got to have a balance.
But you've got to have a balance. So every time we do things like take medications that kill off bugs, obviously you can have that side effect of killing off good guys and creating candida and fungus and parasites. So because your immune system is lowered.
That's where chemotherapy is so severe, isn't it?
It is.
Or radiation.
Yeah.
And it kills off so many good parts.
And that's why you need to trust your specialist when you're doing that sort of thing, that they know what they're doing, so they're going to be causing the least amount of aggravation
it's all trust,
to the body.
Isn't
it is.
And that's why it's very important you get a second, maybe third opinion.
Yeah. And, it's sort of funny because with the gut, you can imagine just about everyone with gut issues would do better if they were on, say, digestive enzymes. Just about everyone with gut issues would do better if they were on probiotics. But on the other hand, if there is a layer in your gut called the biofilm that's filled with old infections, you've got to get them out, because they're literally sitting there under that mucus layer and they're creating low-level inflammation all the time. So if you don't deal with that, then chronic health is going to follow. And there was a study about 5-6 years ago where they were looking at people with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue, and they found that 80 and 100% of them, and I can't remember whether it was 80 for fibro and 100 for chronic fatigue, I think it was, but they've got SIBO and SIFO, so small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, obviously of the bad guys, and a lot of them actually had SIFO, small intestinal fungal overgrowth. So the fungus, you can imagine, ends up,
So there's a fungus inside your body.
Yeah, absolutely. So how, for example, people have antibiotics and some people end up with thrush afterwards, or they end up with rashes afterwards. Well, it's a common thing, particularly for women. And so basically it's one of those things that if you don't sort that out afterwards, then you're predisposed to getting candida every time you do drugs for the... Yeah, absolutely. So there are things that break it down, but it's not easy, because candida is both a bacteria when it's healthy. Nothing wrong with candida as a bacterial form in the body. It's once it turns fungal that it's damaging. And that fungus actually grows roots into the gut lining.
Into the tissue.
Yeah, that's right. So it can take 2 years to shift that. And you can imagine if your gut lining has this fungus on it, as you break it down, you're actually creating holes in the gut wall. So it's got to be a process where your practitioner knows what they're doing, killing some stuff off and doing some healing, killing some stuff off and doing some boosting.
Mistreatment there could lead to an ulcer.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, ulcerations, when you're sort of looking at that sort of thing, there are herbs and nutrients that are amazing to help to heal ulcers. But if you give someone something like digestive enzymes when they've got an ulcer in their gut, that's like... It's like pouring acid on a wound. It would hurt like crazy. So therefore, once again, if you don't know you've got an ulceration and someone gives you... I always think it's good diagnostically. If someone gets a supplement and they say, well, I had a big reaction to that, so therefore they're terrified of it, I always want to know what the reaction is, because to me that gives me a lot of information. So if someone takes digestive enzymes and they get gut pain, I know they've got ulcerations in there, because you shouldn't end up with gut pain after taking digestive enzymes. And same with things like your boswellias and turmerics and gingers and those herbs.
The turmeric sounds like a little magic potion.
It really is. It's sort of like there's so many studies on turmeric. I think 2 or 3 per day are being released at the moment around the world, looking at different things. It helps with the DNA and our genetics and supporting our preventative things for things like cancer and dementia and MS. But once again, it's a dose and it's the activated form. So just having a big scoop of turmeric in your food at night time, that'll help, but it's not as specific as getting...
It's not a tablet form?
Oh, well, you can get activated forms,
is that
absolutely.
Good, or is powder form better?
No. Because the powdered form, if you're just having it as a herb, there's 4 to 6% of the turmeric that's actually activated curcuminoid, so you need quite a lot to get a therapeutic dose. So when capsules are being made by companies, what they're trying to do is get as much of that activated curcuminoids in the tablet as possible. So they want a therapeutic dose. So in India, where they have looked at the amount of turmeric people take in comparison to the amount of cancer, because they actually have quite lower levels of cancer in India per person than we do in Australia and in America and in the UK. And they were sort of wondering why. And of course, one of the big things in India is that they have so many spices and herbs in their daily life. So it's thought that those spices and herbs are giving the body lots of things like phytochemicals that are the things that help to repair our DNA before they become damaged, so that we're creating a genetic condition. We do.
Hey, listen, just changing the subject for a second. Did you get to see Gilbert O'Sullivan in town?
No.
Mr. Guy didn't buy your ticket. What about Bruno Mars? He was last night in town.
He would be fun, wouldn't he?
No, you didn't see him.
No, I didn't.
Is he going to buy your ticket to Ed Sheeran?
Well, Ed would be lovely. What's our next thing we got? We've got Aladdin in a few weeks. That's going to be fabulous.
That's at QPAC, I think.
Yeah.
All right. I tell you what, Gilbert O'Sullivan, you couldn't get to see him. Well, here he is right now with a classic from 1980.